How do you eliminate Magnus Carlsen, the world champion from the World Cup, introducing his opponent Jan-Krzysztof Duda? He is 23 years old, Polish number 1, rapid world number 4, and classical world number 16. In this video, we're going to go through this decisive game, and then at the end I will explain the results table. Carlsen has white, Duda has black, e4, c5, knight 3, d6 and bishop b5 check. We have the bishop b5 Sicilian and Duda blocks, take take. Castle, knight f6 you attack the pawn, queen e2 you defend it because white wants to build his center. Knight c6 you control the central square, c3, e6. Controlling squares on the 5th rank and after d4 take take. So what do we have here? White has the center, but then so does black after this move. Black has to strike now with d5 and after e5 because white wants to get more space, knight e4. So we have this pawn chain. The knight on e4 looks strong, so Magnus challenges it with knight d2 take take and bishop b4. Black has less space, so he offers a trade. Carlsen says no, bishop f4, castle, queen d3. So what's the point of this move? You put the queen here to defend d4 and attack h7 because maybe you go h4, knight g5 later as well. Queen d3, bishop back to e7, so then knight b4 is possible to attack the queen. a3, you stop that. By the way, both sides start with 25 minutes each on the clock, plus 10 seconds per move. Rook c8, g3, knight a5, coming in on a light square, b3, so you stop that, and queen c6, so that there are some entry squares for black. Bishop d2, you stop that, but also you attack the knight. So Duda defends it with queen b6, but attacking the b3 pawn at the same time, so rook b1 defending it. a6, king g2, knight back, rook e1, and queen b5 offering a queen trade, because after take take, there's no advantage for white, no attack, and black can make progress on the queen side. b4 is next, double on the c file. Black has chances on the queen side. That's why after queen b5, no trade. Queen b1, rook c7, h4 and rook c8, doubling rooks on the c file. Rook a2, perhaps coming to a2 or to b2, so then the rook, this rook can also come to c1, so then it's like all the rooks are on the c file. Maybe. a5, planning to go a4, get space. Rook h1, no, Carlsen decides to go for an attack. a4 and now b4, locking it up. One option is this really weird move rook b2, because then you are threatening to open up the a file with a takes b4. Now this move just looks wrong because you allow this and you attack the rook, but rook a2, and then when the bishop moves back, now you can take with the pawn. And if the queens come off, this situation is much better than the real game. But after a4, b4, Magnus plays the normal looking move, because if your opponent is making progress, then it's good to lock it up. h6, stopping any piece coming to g5. Bishop e3, defend your center with the bishop and the knight. Knight a7, opening up the c file, but also this knight is going to park itself on a better square. Bishop d2, queen to e2 means maybe queen e4 is possible, but also the knight can come to b5, attacking these two pawns. Queen e2 is a great move. Rook e1, so Magnus stops that, the queen goes back. Rook e3, and knight b5, and really, the truth is, Duda, he is dominating this position. 6 minutes 21 for black, 9 minutes 58 for white. Duda, he has the c file. He's got a perfect knight on b5, attacking the two pawns, and this bishop, it can come in a game later. Rook d3, rook c6, and here we go. Rook b2, bishop d8. The bishop can actually park itself on b6. With this move, the queen, knight and bishop attack at d4, so you defend it. Knight c3. Black is just taking over. Queen f1, queen b5. Clearing the c file for the two rooks. Rook c2, knight e4. Rook takes, and rook takes. With rook d1, the point is Magnus is offering a trade, and Duda should take it. Rook c4 was actually played in the game, blocking this path. But after take, it looks like only black can be the one winning. Take, take, rook c3, you attack the pawn, defend it, rook b3, clearing the way, because then knight c3, knight b5, and you attack these 2 pawns. Everything is under attack. There's only one way to defend it with bishop c1, but then your key central pawn falls. Take, take, take. And even that pawn is going to fall as well. Game over. But after rook d1, Duda decided to go rook c4 to block with the rook, keeping more pieces on. Knight d2. Magnus goes for a trade. Take, take. Queen c6. The pressure has been reduced, but black is still better. Queen e2. Rook c3. And rook a2 played. So why is this a blunder? It is a very passive move, and what Carlsen should have done was get on with his attack, play a move like g5. Take, take, queen c4. Very important, offer a queen trade, because this is white's idea. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then mate. I know it's 5 moves, but really white is beginning his idea, his kingside attack. So queen c4 offers that trade. Queen g4, and now very important move, rook c1. Very important, because you want to stop him going rook d1 to h1 and to help out with an attack. Also, white has g6, so rook c1 is actually a really cool move, and maybe this is why Carlsen didn't go for it. Rook c1. Black now has a threat on f1. Rook d1, offer a trade, take, take, and this position is very, very difficult to play. Queen b3 looks very good. Only black can be the one going for a win. I mean, these 2 pawns have been targets the entire game. Rook c3, rook a2. A blunder because it's so passive. Bishop d8. Attacking this pawn, forcing a decision on it, and he plays g5. One option was to play h5, clamping down here. But Magnus went g5. Take, take, and queen c4. So just like before. Trade now happens, and he actually takes with a pawn. Rook c4 was another way to continue. And then you come back, and then you come back. Or you keep the rook there, and then you target d4. And a cool way in is king h7, g6, f5, e4. And with a king on f5, you're attacking these 2 pawns. So this was one way to continue. But Duda played take with a pawn. d5, getting some counterplay. Because after take, rook d2. One reason you want to play g6 is because at the moment you cannot play king f3 because you take. You're using the pin on the 3rd rank. So if the king moves, now take, take, and black's winning. You can even go b5, you can even go rook d3. b5 looks good. Protect your passed pawn. So why is d5 blunder? Take, rook d2. Magnus needs to get counterplay. He can't spend his whole life defending this pawn. So rook d2 attacks this. Now rook d3 he blocks, but there was actually this really cool option. You take, take, attack the bishop, so you have to move it, right? Wrong. Rook d3, x-ray defense. And black is winning. After rook d2, rook d3, so Duda plays it straight away. Maybe he didn't actually see this x-ray defense. 29 seconds versus 28 seconds. Take, take. Remember, they both get 10 seconds per move. f4. Defending your structure, king f8. Now, why is this a blunder? Because there was a way for Duda to break up the structure with f6. Break it up straight away. Take, take. If the king comes in, king here, d4, really cool move. Very fancy move, actually. d4, just kick the bishop away and then take. Because if take now, then you can take. And there's no good way for black to come in. This king is just going to march itself in. If you go bishop here, let's say here, bishop d2, no need to trade, just keep it. King f2, coming in, doesn't matter, just check and then you come in. By the way, this is a cool endgame tactic. If bishop here, now d2, and then you win. Can't take because you queen, and can't go here because you take the bishop. Cool endgame tactic there. So this was one way for Duda to continue in this endgame. But after f4, king f8, that chance was not taken. King f3, king e7, bishop c5, check, king up, king e3, king f5. So if you take me, I take you, right? Wrong. Because this is what Duda saw just in time. There are so many tricks in the endgame. Magnus is such a tricky player. Throughout any phase of the game, if you take, then white has a way to break through with g6, and if you take it, then e6. and e7, take, and white is winning. That bishop is going to come back in time. After g6, believe it or not, the best move here is actually f5, so then you keep your pawns together. There's still a chance for black in his endgame. Crazy. If you push, now you come round for the other pawn. e7, take, and it's much better because your pawns, you got two passed pawns here, you still got some chances. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Duda saw this just in time, so he plays g6 to stop this endgame trick. Bishop back, bishop c7. So, notice, black is better here, because all white's pawns are on dark squares, and all black's pawns are on light squares. There's no target for the bishop. Push. Very ambitious move, and listening to the commentary by Jan Gustafsson and Peter Svidler, this actually gives this bishop a longer diagonal to work with, which is what Peter Svidler said. Bishop d8, no need to actually give Duda this chance. King up, check, you have to go back. Bishop d8, king d4, repetition, no. Fantastic to see Duda play this on, and probably one reason is because all white's pawns are on dark squares. Bishop e7. Bishop c1, got to defend it, and now king e6. So, we have a passed d pawn. How is Duda going to make progress here? 24 seconds versus 47. Bishop b2, bishop d8, king c5. So allowing the king to come in, but not really. It looks scary, but there's no entry square for him. Bishop a5, coming round back, going to d2 to f4. So maybe, if this pawn was here, then this chance wouldn't have been possible at all. Bishop c1, Carlsen now blunders because it allows bishop c3 and the tables have turned. One option was to play bishop d4. This stops this completely because it stops this pawn from ever moving. But after bishop a5, bishop c1, Carlsen blundered, and now bishop c3. And black is now winning in this bishop endgame. b6 was played. If you play bishop e3, the cool thing is, even though it stops the advance of this pawn, black plays b6, and he's just in time. This was a brilliant variation pointed out by Jan Duda in the interview. Check first, take d4, and there's no way. Bishop back, d3, king out the way, d2, take, b6, are you in time? Yes, take, b7, take, and you are just in time. This was a brilliant variation. Mentioned in the interview. So after bishop c3, black is now winning. b6 played instead. By the way, it's exactly the same thing after king b6. d4, take, d3, push, d2, take, and we are just in time. Wow. b6, d4, king c4. Stopping the advance of the pawn. But king d7, now the king comes round. Bishop e3, cool move. Very, very cool move. Always tactics, always tricks from Magnus. But bishop b2, Duda goes for the more important pawn. Take. Still, all of white's pawns are on dark squares. That's why Duda is taking over in this endgame. After bishop takes a3, bishop e3, bishop b2, king b4, push, stop it, and king back in. King back and king forward. King back and king in. 1, 2, 3, 4, in. King e4, bishop d2. So black can't push this pawn, but every single pawn is on the dark square. I know I keep saying it, but this is the reason Duda won this endgame. Bishop d4, going after that pawn. He can't make any more progress with this pawn. So bishop d4, take, king b4, and after bishop f2, Magnus resigned because there is no way to defend against all these pawns. They're all going to drop. If we played on a bit, let's say the king goes up, going after that pawn, bishop goes after these. Take, save the bishop, take, and 2 pawns. Black is 2 pawns up. That's why Magnus Carlsen resigned, and he is out of the World Cup. And here we have it, the final table. The 2 classical games, 2 draws, and today we had a draw and a win for Jan Duda, so he is through to the final of the World Cup, where he will play Sergei Karyakin. By the way, here is YouTube's choice for what to watch next, but maybe you don't like their selection. If not, you might prefer this one. Jan Duda, he beat Magnus Carlsen after Magnus has not lost a game in over 2 years. That's 125 games unbeaten until he faced Jan Duda. But if you don't like that option, you might like this one. Magnus Carlsen's World Cup Queen Sacrifice. Thanks for watching.